Welcome to the last episode of WIN TV's news broadcast of the year. I'm your host, Denise Rolock Barnes, bringing you news that matters, and publisher I am of the Washington Informer. I got to say really quickly, I'm just going to throw it in here really quick. I want to thank Cortland Malloy of the Washington Post that did that, I think, exceptional, really great article on the legacy, the history of the Washington Informer that ran recently in the Washington Post. And for those of you all who have commented on it, thank you so very much for your kind remarks. Yes, we're a work in progress. We've been a work in progress for 57 years, and we're continuing on in the work of this man that you see over my shoulder, the late Dr. Calvin W. Rolock, who got us all started here at the Washington Informer. So thank you very much, Cortland. Thank you, all of the Washington Informer readers. Thank you, the Washington Informer staff. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, God, for helping us to get through all of the years and what we're looking forward to in 2022. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit share so your friends can see this broadcast. And if you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us. And if you are a TikTok user, you can follow us there too. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. I hope you've picked up your copy of the Washington Informer. I think our guys, Dan and Jaron of Zebra Graphics, did a nice cover for us this year. We always like to end the year with something special. And inside, I mean, it's just full of all of the highlights from this year, from, everything from top sports stories to top business stories, health stories. It's a month by month sort of a collection of all the stories that we reported in 2021. And I want to thank our editor, Kevin McNair, for making sure that this issue came out and it looked great. And we hope that you will pick it up on newsstands available throughout the DMV. And of course, you can get the Informer online at our new website. Speaking of our new website, we did launch sort of a revised version of our website about 2 weeks ago. And with everything, I always say it's a work in progress. So I feel good about that, knowing that we've got something up that we think it's better than what we've seen in the past. But if you go to the website, and we hope you will visit it, and let us know if you find anything that we need to fix or tweak. But also, we want to be more in touch with you this year. And we want to know what's of interest to you, the stories that you would like for us to cover, things that are going on in your neighborhood, in your communities, and your churches, and with your organizations. So feel free to reach out to us at news, at WashingtonInformer.com. So in a little under 12 hours, can you believe it? We are going to be in a brand new year with new ideas, new goals, and new dreams, new opportunities, and new things that are going to happen for all of us. And hopefully it will be the best. But what isn't new, of course, is this daggone COVID-19 pandemic and its variants, the Delta, the Omicron, and whatever else fortunately, those are the only two that we've been faced with so far. But, this COVID just has not gone away, and we're taking it, we are taking it into 2022. So as I ended in 2020, I'll end 2021, reminding you to practice social distancing. Remember to wear a mask, wash your hands. If you believe in vaccines, please go ahead and get your vaccine. If you don't believe in vaccines, do the research to find out if you're making yourself, your family members, or those that you are around more susceptible to getting the virus because of your concerns and your fears. Remember, this vaccine is not just for you. It's for the community in which you live and operate, and the community in which you work. And so, we want to make sure that we not only protect ourselves, but we protect those around us, because we want to see all of you all in 2022. So next week, we're going to be talking to Dr. V, who's been with us, for the last 2 years, off and on. Giving us information about this COVID-19, and she's going to be here to talk about these variants that continue to crop up. And we are going to ask her the question, is there no end Please, Dr. V, we hope to see you next week and have that conversation. Today, we've got a great show, despite the fact that it's the end of the year. And for many of you all, it's a holiday and you're home, and that means that our viewership should be up, we hope. Today, we'll be talking to AT&T Director of Marketing and Communications, Angela Bergen-Logan, and she's bringing with us 3 fantastic local area college students who were selected as part of AT&T's HBCU national campaign, Dream in Black, Rising Future Makers. And so we're looking forward to having Kennedy Buck, a senior at Hampton University, Tyren Walker, a senior at Bowie State University, and Gabrielle Steward, a senior at Howard University, to talk to us about this program and what the future looks like for them, and why, just why we are happy that Angela came up with this program, and what she expects the impact will be on future makers. Sam P.K. Collins, our education writer who does so much more at the Washington Informer, will be with us to talk about what he believes the future of education is in the District of Columbia and what it will look like in 2022. I have to say, we might not talk too much about it, but we will be coming up soon. Sam just released his new book, Babylon Be Still, how a journalist educator adopted an African-centered worldview. So congratulations, Sam. We'll talk about this, but we also want to talk to you about what's going on in education in the DC area, and what parents, teachers, and administrators, and our community in whole can expect beginning next week. Dr. Shatella Sherman, who is our special sections writer, a historian, and so much more, will be back on today and share her viewpoint, as well as discuss her aspect on what might be trending in 2022 and the political landscape we can expect coming forward. And we're going to close out the program with our photo memorial of those who have gone on and look at some of the images captured by Washington Informer photographers Roy Lewis, Anthony Tillman, Chevy Lassiter, Robert Roberts, Jamon Jackson, and Abdullah Kanti. All of their great photos from 2021. And I think I might even have a photo or two in there as well. Maybe, I don't know if Sherry kicked me out. But at any rate, I love taking pictures, but I am not the Washington Informer photographer. So next Thursday, January 6th, marks the 1-year anniversary of the Capitol insurrection, when white nationalist groups and others stormed the Capitol building. A few African-American photographers covered the event, including Shedrick Pelt, a DC photojournalist who used his camera as a weapon to illuminate the vile acts of that day. Shedrick will be curating an exhibit at Gallery O on that's Gallery O on H Street Northeast, titled Attacks on Democracy Through the Lens of a Black Journalist, in February and March. On January 6th at 6 p.m., he'll be participating in a live Instagram conversation with Tatiana Rice of BLK Art House to talk about his coverage on January 6th and what it's like to navigate an industry dominated by his white counterparts. Shedrick will be joining us on WIN TV next Friday, so we're certainly looking forward to seeing him next week. So before we talk to our guests, we're going to go to Curtis Knowles, who is going to give us a video on what has happened, and in case you missed it, what's going on in DC this week.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. In a strange turn of events, seeing as how COVID cases have been spiking globally, the CDC has released a new mandate to shorten the recommended COVID-19 isolation and quarantine period from 10 to 5 days. The CDC has been under pressure from both the public and private sectors to explore ways to shorten the isolation and quarantine time and reduce risk of severe staffing shortages amid the Omicron surge. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said on Monday, "We want to make sure that there is a mechanism by which we can safely continue to keep society functioning while following the science." Washington, D.C. is now considered a hotspot for the Omicron variant of the coronavirus, according to new data. The city has seen a 3,000% increase in coronavirus cases since Thanksgiving, jumping from a daily average of 60 to nearly 2,000 per day. Additionally, the number of people under intensive care at DC area hospitals has quadrupled between December 23rd and 26. A $100 million class action lawsuit is bringing to light the many ills within the Metropolitan Police Department. These ills include racism, sexism, and fraud. According to civil rights lawyer Pamela Keith, at least 20 officers have come forward since the first action in October. The lawsuit asked for the MPD and the city to establish a $100 million fund, for which Keith says 700 black women will be a part of the class action going back 10 years. A hearing is expected in January on the lawsuits. A jury in New York federal court has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty on 5 of 6 counts related to her role in Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse of minor girls between 1994 and 2004. Maxwell, who is 60, was found guilty of 5 federal charges, including sex trafficking of a minor, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, and 3 related counts of conspiracy. Maxwell faces up to 65 years in prison. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, "The road to justice has been far too long, but today, justice has been done." This is Curtis Knowles with WIN TV News.
Thank you so much, Curtis. And I don't want you all to leave us, but we want you to know that starting probably in a few minutes, there will be a live broadcast of the prayer service honoring the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu that you can see on our YouTube channel, Washington Informer TV. The broadcast is coming live from the South African Embassy here in Washington, D.C. And, Bishop Tutu will be laid to rest in Cape Town, South Africa tomorrow. That broadcast also will be live. But we are so happy to be a part of the event that's happening at the South African Embassy right now with local clergy sort of remembering, I won't say sort of, but remembering the life and legacy of Archbishop Tutu. So, what is the AT&T Rising Future Makers program? Well, let's take a look.
We're honored to celebrate and introduce them to the world. Watch them rise. Discover the leaders of tomorrow. Meet the AT&T Dream in Black Rising Future Makers.
I'm incredibly thankful to have met every single person that I did that weekend. Everyone was so creative, driven, talented, intelligent, all in their own unique ways. I have no doubt at all that everyone's future is bright. AT&T made no mistake selecting us to be a part of this class. I truly do believe we are rising future makers. We are rising future makers that are truly shaping the now, the new, and the next.
Wow, that is so cool. It's my pleasure to welcome Angela Bergen, AT&T Director of Marketing and Communications and the founder of the AT&T Rising Future Makers program. Angela, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hey, Denise, it's so great to be here.
Likewise. I wish I was where you are. It looks like it's beautiful weather wherever you are right now. So blow a little over this way to the East Coast.
Well, I had a wonderful holiday visit to the East Coast, and now I'm back here on the West Coast and trying to channel some of that good weather.
Wonderful. So, this is, I just love programs when corporate America partners, particularly with our HBCUs, gives them a taste of what, corporate life is all about, helps to build their aspirations. But I don't know why you started this program. I'm just telling you why I get thrilled about it. But tell me, why did you create this?
Well, I really wanted to do 3 things. I wanted to recognize, support, and invest. I got to tell you that one of the beautiful things about the Dream in Black platform is it's all about celebrating the culture and the creators who help shape it. And there is no greater place where you find creators than on HBCU campuses. And so HBCUs are, only 3% of the institutions in the United States, but they actually graduate about 20% of all African-American professionals. And so we really wanted to be a part of supporting this amazing cohort. And certainly for me, my support with AT&T, it's really important that it showed up beyond those words. We wanted to go a little further, and we wanted to invest. We know that in order for us to have future leaders, that we actually have to put some investment behind them. And so the HBCU Rising Future Maker program from AT&T is really designed to do just that, to recognize these amazing students who are making such an impact even before they have a degree, to recognize and to celebrate them, but to also to support them with investment. And so we are investing with financial resources, and we're also investing with mentorship and advocacy to help these students really propel their careers.
Well, the other thing too is the whole Dreaming Black part of the theme or the title of the program, because a lot of times, young people grow up in communities, and we, are consumers of products, but we don't know that there are people like you, Angela, who are helping to make things happen within corporate America. And so we don't see ourselves in these places. And so is that what the Dreaming Black part of that means as well, to know that you all are opening doors. Doors have been open for you, and you all are opening doors for them as well?
So beautiful and so well said. Absolutely. And so Dreaming Black for AT&T, I really wanted to create something that was going to be a movement that would live far beyond me and that would go to every corner, I hope, of the world. It's really all about celebrating what is possible. AT&T is a company that's all about greater possibilities. And so with the Dreaming Black movement, again, as I mentioned, we wanted to demonstrate our support of the community, our celebration of creators and the culture they help shape, but to help people to realize that, yes, inside of corporations, there are people who are just like me, who are out here really trying to make a difference inside of companies like AT&T and trying to create a lasting difference in our communities. And so with this Dreaming Black initiative, we're able to really empower Black communities. And I'm just so excited about what we've seen from not only celebrities, but HBCU students and Black future makers across the board. It has really been an amazing movement.
So I want you to help me to introduce 3 of the HBCU students that we have with us today from the DMV area, as a matter of fact. So can you tell us who's with us today?
Sure. We have Tyren Walker, amazing student. I mean, this is someone who has been just an honor student, someone who has an amazing capabilities just to just engage people. I've enjoyed spending some time with him recently. We also have Kennedy Buck, who is someone who is so inspired about media that she actually created her own talk show called Sister Talk and has been doing an amazing work in the media field, again, even before she has that degree. And so we're just so excited about Kennedy. And then we also have Gabrielle. I have to tell you that Gabrielle Steward is someone who is energized by the healthcare profession. I'm someone who also has a personal journey with healthcare, and I know that we have such an opportunity to improve the health and wellness of Black communities. And so Gabrielle has really been someone who is excited, energized, and motivated to make a difference in that area. And so these are 3 dynamic students that we couldn't be more proud to celebrate, to recognize, and to absolutely support.
So we've got Bowie State, Howard University, and Hampton University in the house, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Tyren, I'm going to start with you since Angela did. How did you hear about the program, and why were you interested in participating?
So I actually heard about the program through my school email. They regularly send opportunities like this for us students to, find ways where we could, propel ourselves into the work career. And I applied to this because I liked AT&T's. I liked what they were doing with this. I think the fact that they pride themselves on diversity and inclusion, I felt like that was something I definitely wanted to be a part of. And that was probably one of the main forces for me applying to this.
And you all are seniors, Kennedy. So, I mean, you have goals and aspirations. You've got a talk show. And so tell us again why this was important, and how do you think this is going to propel your career?
So this is important because, just in the name itself, Rising Future Makers. And I just wanted to make sure that, I was recognized for my impact and for everyone else's impact. Just kind of like what Angela said, 3 years ago, I created and founded Sister Talk with Kennedy Buck and Friends. I just wanted to create a safe space for Black women to talk about everyday things that we all go through. We've talked about safe sex, our hair, and then once a year, we actually invite the men, kind of have a he said, she said, talk about relationships, kind of the different perspectives and all that. And I was proud of it because, through the pandemic, we actually kept it going. We went to virtual on Zoom. And I love that because I was able to open it to not just Hampton women, but all other HBC women or women of all colors, older women. And I just love that. And and I'm just really thankful to be a part of this. And I hope that I'll continue to stay friends with everyone in the program. Just kind of like what Ty said in his video, they could not have chosen a better group of 25 students. We all get along so well. It's crazy. And I'm so appreciative of everything that this has done for me so far.
This is fantastic. And Gabrielle, I mean, you're focused on healthcare, and you'll be graduating, I assume in May or June of this year, almost coming. Yeah. So again, I mean, talk about what your aspirations are and how this whole experience, what difference it's making in your future plans.
Yeah. So I essentially aspire to own my own health and wellness center catered towards the African American community to just educate our people more about how the body works and how eating itself can make such a positive impact on the trajectory of our health. And so with this health and wellness center, with this health and wellness center, I plan on providing meal plans and then also cooking classes and personal training classes, just so that we just have that all-inclusive experience of caring for our bodies. Because I realized that for a long time, I saw all these different diseases that were common, especially in the Black community. And then when I started doing more research about it, I realized that a lot of it can be tied to foods. And just like other areas have access to some of these resources, I feel like it should be the same within our community.
Angela, these future makers have very dynamic, I think, aspirations. I mean, they've already started on the things that they want to do in their career. But what qualifies a student to become a part of this program?
Such a great question. One, students really have to just reach out and let us know what they're doing. And so we created a place where we could really hear from students directly. So we utilize social media. And so we asked students to share a short video with us on social, talking about what they are doing to really create impact for the future, not only for themselves, but for the community. And so what we looked for in our entries was that inspirational reach. What were these students doing that could benefit, again, their communities and certainly their career fields? And so we really were interested in that. We wanted to hear directly from students on what their future opportunities and ideas were, because we wanted to be a part of supporting that next generation of future leaders. And certainly we wanted to just hear from students on their enthusiasm about being HBCU students and their enthusiasm about the future. And so those were really the simple criteria. And so this is first of all, an amazing inaugural class. And so we're excited about having this come again next year, but students can know it is just that simple. You just simply need to get out there and share what you are doing. There are so many amazing students, but I will say, I think that we have the best inaugural class ever.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so will AT&T, do they go to the website when's the next class going to be accepted or considered?
Sure. Well, you're going to see us celebrating Kennedy, Gabrielle, and Tyren, Ty, we call him oftentimes, throughout the entire year. So you're going to see a lot about these students. We want the world to get to know these amazing students so that their next opportunities might be from someone who's watching this show. So we want to make sure that we're investing in these students and exposing others to the great opportunities they have with these students. But our next class is actually going to be selected around the September timeframe in 2022. Okay. So you should look out for that call for entries around September 2022. And then again, students simply need to submit that short video on social media using the hashtag #StreamingBlack and hashtag ATT Rising Future Maker. We'll then make our selections in October, and then that next cycle of fun begins.
So this is for anyone who wants to answer, including you, Angela. But a lot of times we have great ideas, like you said, ideas about programs or anything that's going to make a difference in our community. To be able to partner with a corporate entity, a lot of times we don't understand the business side of what we want to do. So did any of you all get a chance to see? I mean, AT&T is a humongous company. I think back, and I hate to tell personal stories, but when I was in law school, I wanted to pursue a career in international communications law. Nobody knew what I was talking about 30 years ago. And think about it, I could have been, opening a door for Angela at that point, because AT&T probably would have been a good place for me to work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still the business side of what you all are doing. And did you get a chance to see what that's like in a corporation, like working at AT&T, Tyren or Kennedy or Gabrielle?
I guess I'll get to say there was like a virtual kind of celebratory event for us before we flew out to North Carolina. We did get to meet like a lot of different people. Like I remember meeting Ken McNeely, and he's the president of AT&T over on the West Side, and he was just giving us insight on like what we should be doing as far as when we're seeking out employers and applying to these jobs and what they're looking for and all of that. So I think that was really cool being able to experience that.
Wonderful. And either of the other of two of you, Gabrielle or Kennedy, or even your most memorable moment, the thing that you think is going to go that you'll carry with you beyond this experience.
Yeah, so I definitely first want to also thank AT&T for selecting us again, and then also for you all having us on the show, because I think that even moments like this are the most impactful, and that's that exposure. I know specifically for dietetics, a lot of people don't know what dietetics is. And it's so important to the health and wellness of our bodies, right? Knowing the foods to eat and the science behind diseases through foods. And it was something that was actually kept out for so long from the Black population after slavery, after segregation ended. So this exposure itself does so much for our community, because we get to experience. I know I've met so many different people in different fields that I didn't even know necessarily existed with great ideas. And that alone just helps. I really believe helps our village just get stronger, because yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to help sustain it. And so I think that that's exactly what the program is doing.
I love that. Kennedy, what about you? Is there a memorable moment, or is there something you experienced while you were, you're still in the program, but what are you thinking?
The memorable moment for me was meeting everyone, just meeting this group of other 25 rising future makers, and just learning their passions, what they're intelligent about, just all their skills and tools, and then taking that with me as I continue to grow in my career, and just also having them as friends. Just every time I talk to one of them individually or as a group, I just leave with more knowledge of myself, more knowledge of the world. Like just knowing Gabby about the nutrition and everything, I didn't know so much about that, and she still talks to all of us about it. And just there's so many other great students who are just like her, just like Ty, who just are so intelligent and so amazing, and I'm so grateful for them.
So Angela, are you creating, or is there a portal? For example, like I said, these are seniors, so they're going to be out looking for jobs. Probably looking now for when they graduate, and hopefully there are folks that are watching. I know Dr. Sherman would love to talk to you, Gabrielle. She's going to push you towards getting your PhD, just based on what you've shared so far. But how would employers find these young people that come through this program?
Wonderful question. And by the way, I want to thank you so much, Denise, for having us. And so we appreciate you being a part of our journey and a part of celebrating these amazing students. So thank you to you and the Washington Informer for this opportunity. But you can learn more about these students at att.com/dreamingblack. And so on our Dream in Black microsite, you can learn all about the amazing class, these 25 amazing students who are really doing so much exciting work, who are just amazing students. Again, as I mentioned, these are people who are making tremendous strides even before they have a degree. But many of them are actually graduating. And so these are people that you would be lucky to have if you were an employer out there. And so we want you to, we invite you, that is, to learn more about these students at att.com/dreamingblack.
So I know we need to close, but I got to ask one more question, because I'm sure, one, Angela, when you came up with the program, you weren't thinking COVID, and you weren't thinking virtual, and you weren't thinking, how you were going to maneuver in this environment that we're in. And then the three students, you all have been attending school pretty much in a virtual environment for the past year, and maybe going into it again, as you told me earlier, Tyren. So how did you have to pivot, Angela, to accommodate this pandemic crisis that we're in right now?
Well, the beautiful thing about AT&T is we're a connections company. And so we specialize in finding ways to connect. And so we have an amazing network. And so we knew that we could connect through technology. And so the first way that we, number one, discovered these amazing students was through social media. And so we utilized social to learn more about these students and to create a selection process. From there, we knew that we wanted to ensure that we could create a safe place for the students to meet each other. And not only that, but to meet with our advocates in the program. We have celebrity advocates, which include HBCU student and two-time NBA champion J.R. Smith, Lala Anthony, and many AT&T executives. And so we created a very safe environment for them through a virtual meet and greet and a virtual advocacy session. And so that was our first session. And then we went further. Once we knew we could create a very safe environment in person, a vaccine-only event, we were able to do that on the campus of North Carolina A&T. And I got to tell you, it was just an amazing experience being together with these students, to spend some actual time with them and to certainly pour into them with all the information, tips, and support that we could.
And how have you all done this year virtually? Has it been? You sound like you're kind of taking it with ease. You've gotten accustomed to it, and it's a new life experience, and it's not a big deal. Is that true?
Well, certainly we know that there's been a lot of disruption for the world with this pandemic. One of the things that AT&T is so proud to do is we're really working hard on the digital divide, and that's really become really apparent with the pandemic. And so AT&T is doing a lot of work to support students in many ways. This HBCU program is one of those. And so you'll see AT&T out there really working to close that digital divide and those gaps for students of all kinds. And so, yes, we are working inside this environment. And so I wouldn't say it's necessarily easy, but it is something that we do really well as a connections company. And so, again, we couldn't be more proud to have connected with these amazing students, Ty, Gabrielle, Kennedy, and the 22 other students that are in this program. And thank you so much, Denise, for giving us that opportunity to share about these HBCU Rising Future Makers.
Well, my pleasure. And I wish all of you all much success. Thank you, Angela, for even coming up with the idea. Thank you, AT&T, for believing in your idea. And I wish you all the best of luck and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
All righty. Take care. So it's really, really great that we have programs like this because, our students coming from HBCUs are, as Angela said, some of the most talented and creative young people that you'll find on the face of this earth. And just listening to some of the things that they've already done. And I think it's a lesson for many students, hopefully, or those of you all who are in households who have students that are in college. Tell them, don't wait to pursue your dreams. Start it now, because people are looking, corporations like AT&T are looking for dreamers who can make dreams come real. And all they want to do is to help to fertilize those dreams. So I congratulate the three students. I congratulate Angela. And I'm also now excited for another one who I met as a student in grad school, who has made his dream come true, but also works really hard with us here at the Washington Informer. And that is Sam Collins. Sam, welcome to today's edition of Win TV. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Denise. Happy New Year to you, and just very glad to be here as always.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're talking about the last segment was talking about college students. And I know right now, as an educator, a writer, and now an author, you are concerned about those kids who are trying to make their way beyond middle school and high school, and that are being impacted, by this pandemic. Tell us, what do you see happening next week? First of all, when schools come back, what are you writing about, and what are some of your concerns?
No problem. As far as next week, I think a lot of what's going to happen depends on the rate at which parents and children get their rapid test results. But regardless of however that looks, people should expect long lines. They should expect a long wait time in terms of getting results, and schools individually determining whether or not they will close after the 5th. As we saw with the mayor and Chancellor Farabay's announcement last week or earlier this week, the decision to close is going to be up to each individual school in consultation with the DCPS central office. And that depends on the results of rapid COVID antigen tests that will be submitted on December 4th. So between the 3rd and the 4th, teachers and students will be required to submit their test, and then those results will determine whether or not each individual school will open or not. And that's often dependent on the amount of teachers that will be present, given whether or not they test positive for for COVID. But even with that, there's a lot of concern about whether or not, with everything being online these days and uploading tests, there's concern that the site will crash, and even how soon they can turn around results and data.
I always want to think positively about, outcomes, particularly as it relates to, our children, and that the adults know what they're doing, and that, everything's going to be fine, and kids can really focus on learning and having fun. But we know that doesn't always work that way. And so you're saying that as opposed to having a the system-wide policy is going to be a school-based policy. In essence, if students end up at a particular school that has a high incidence of infections, then that school or that principal can, in consultation with the the chancellor's office or the superintendent, can say we need to close.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
exactly what's going to happen. Overall, the chancellor and DC Mayor Bowser remain committed to keeping schools open and remaining in-person learning, just as has been the case before winter break. Individual schools, depending on their situation, consult with DCPS. And there's a test to enter policy that is system-wide in DCPS. As far as the charter schools, they consult with State Superintendent Dr. Christina Grant. And as far as test to enter, it's not across the board for each charter school, but there are specific charter schools that will test students before they enter the building.
So parents will be required to make sure that their students have been tested 2 days before. So in essence, they should be getting their students tested by Monday.
By Monday, but from what I was told during the press conference, they want test results from the 4th. So teachers are the ones in DCPS who report on the 3rd. You can report on the 3rd or the 4th, but from my understanding, the most valid rapid antigen test is the one that is uploaded on the 4th. That they consider that a better indicator of whether students are good to go.
And does it matter? Do you know what tests that they take? Do they have to go to a testing center? Is it the 15-minute, like you said, rapid test, or the one that you have to send in? Does it matter what test you take?
Very good question. It does not matter. You can take the at-home test. You can go into a building. You can even go to one of the many clinics across the district that are conducting tests, as long as you upload the results either by PDF or by photo.
And we know, at least we've heard, and we don't know much of anything. We're all operating off of what we've heard. But we've heard that, you can test today and be negative and end up with COVID tomorrow. So, are the students, if a student has not been tested, will the school itself provide tests for those students?
My understanding, again, is that students who report to school who have not been tested, they can conduct the test then and there in order to enter the building.
Okay.
As far as the rapid tests, being hesitant about speaking about personal experience, rapid tests can turn out negative, but the PCR tests, the results of which come back 2 to 3 days later, can end up positive. So that's also been a concern among parents and teachers, just given the fact that a lot of people have received false negatives over the winter break. And then once they test again or they get the results back from the actual lab, it's in fact that they tested positive for COVID.
So have you had an opportunity, Sam, to talk to any parents or any teachers who are expressing their feelings one way or the other about this process and about the reopening of schools after the holidays?
Definitely. In terms of teachers, there's a petition going around right now calling for a system-wide pivot to virtual learning. And teachers who are calling for virtual learning, they're not doing it. They're doing it with the understanding. Let's back up first. So there's a debate about which way is more beneficial to students. Teachers who are calling for virtual learning, they are doing so even though virtual learning has been more stressful for them. Teaching students virtually, having a lot of these boxes cut off, you can't see their faces, oftentimes, and there might be, bad internet connections has been very stressful. Even with that, teachers want to pivot to virtual out of concern for their safety and that of students. And there are parents who feel the same way. At the very same time, there are parents who are concerned about being able to take off from work if in fact their kids do have to quarantine and learn virtually. So when it comes to parents, it can go either way, but the main concern is about how can parents best accommodate their students who have to learn virtually. And that's always been a topic of discussion throughout the whole pandemic, balancing those obligations.
So, because I do want to talk a little bit about your book, even though we're getting to a longer conversation a little later, but are you aware, and we should have something that we can post now, if parents or have questions or need to reach out, what would you suggest that they, what email, what phone number, do you have any information where parents can go to get additional information before school starts?
Another important question, Denise, and you are the OG. You always ask very good questions. I appreciate that. Parents whose children attend DC public schools, there is a Reopen Strong website that has been updated. If you ask whoever, the degree to which it's been updated is debatable, but at the very same time, you do get up-to-date information as it relates to DC public schools. If you want to get information related to your individual school, whether you are charter or public charter, whether you are public or public charter, you should always report to the school administrators. That has always been the first line of defense in terms of getting information. So I'll say it once again. For DC public school students and families, report to the Reopen Strong website or to your individual schools for information. For public charter school students and parents, report to your individual charter schools.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're trying to put something up. I don't know what's going on with the screen right now, but yeah, we're going to try to put something up. I think that's great information. And we want to make sure that parents are equipped with that information. And also, Sam, I mean, people are going to have some experiences that may, they may have someone that they need to talk to. I don't think we're trying to do Dream in Black, but we're seeing that again. How can they reach you, Sam, if folks have some stories that they may want to share about education, their educational experiences?
Definitely. My email address is scollins@washingtoninformer.com, COLLINS at WashingtonInformer.com. I'm also very active on social media, on Twitter and Instagram. You can catch me at Sam P.K. Collins, and on Facebook, Sam P.K. Collins Writer. Or you can just type in my byline and the page will show up. As I said, I'm very active on social media, so I will reply and get to you.
Okay, well, we're doing a great plug for AT&T Dreaming Black right now. We haven't gotten any of that information, but I think, oh, there we go. Okay, thank you, Sherry. We're good. We're good. And I want to ask just one last. Oh, well, no, let me go talk about the book now.
Man, that's a beautiful book.
Of course, it doesn't mean you're not saying that because it has your name at the bottom. But tell us, I mean, this book was just released this week, correct?
Definitely.
Okay, talk about how this came about.
Man.
Babylon Be Still. First, talk about the title.
Oh, very good question. I encourage everybody to listen to Garnett Silk's Babylon Be Still. Going to get personal as I have in the book. I am of the Rastafari Livity, and Rastafari is well beyond what people talk about when they talk about Bob Marley and this and that. We are talking about going back to Africa spiritually, physically, and Rastafari, which is named after His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie, was an interpretation of the Bible, which was taken from us and misinterpreted. It's our interpretation of the Bible, and it's also our ode to the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, who also called for self-determination, who also called for independence of African people all across the world, and who called for identity with the African continent. So at a time when W.E.B. Du Bois and other leaders of the 20th century were more so fighting for integration and looking for other ways to accommodate with the system, Marcus Garvey inspired us to look our own way, to look within ourselves, and to unite as a united African people. So Babylon Be Still, in short, speaks to my metamorphosis as a journalist who attended the PWI and who navigated the journalism industry trying to find his voice. And oftentimes, you know, as a conscious brother living in DC, when you want to speak about gentrification, you want to speak about go-go music, you want to speak about issues near and dear to your heart, there are forces at hand that often discourage you from doing so. And if you're not strong internally, you will buck and you will fall. And I had to learn that. And I'm still here because I have that liberty, you know, and the book really speaks to that.
You said PWI. For those who, most of us know what that means, but just describe that.
A PWI is a predominantly white institution. The PWI I attended was the George Washington University. I attended on a full ride. DC students, they can get to GW on what's called the Trachtenberg Scholarship. When I attended GW's campus, the Black population was 6%. The Black male population was 2%. The GW population that was from DC was even smaller. So a lot of GW students, they matriculate through the boarding schools. They come from California, Boston, Georgia, and they are often sons and daughters of business magnates and others like that. So I was in the belly of the beast for 7 years between undergrad and grad school.
And coming from what high school in DC?
Banneker Academic High School.
Woohoo! All right. Right. Well, you know, I look forward to reading the book. I'm glad that I got a copy. I can't wait to see you so you can at least autograph it for me. I hope that's
I will. Okay. Yes, I will.
And we're going to get back together a little bit later on and talk more about this and some of the other ideas and concepts that I think fulfill or fit within the mission of why even the Washington Informer was started, and why we're so glad to have you with us, because you understand, you know, our mission, and, you know, there's sort of a perfect marriage there. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad that education is, you know, particularly in your focal point. You know, we're going to be talking about Carter G. Woodson, some others, you know, as we move towards Black History Month, and just what parents can do on their own, you know, outside of the classroom, to make sure that their students are prepared for the world that's out there waiting to eat them up.
Exactly.
so to speak.
Yeah.
So, we want to make sure that they're strong and prepared for that. And we certainly are glad to have you with us to talk about that. So congratulations. I know on your flyer, it says, we've overlooked the fact that we're still on our last day of Kwanzaa, next to last day of Kwanzaa. And so, again, Habari Gani. To you. Yes. And tell folks what Kuumba stands for.
Kuumba stands for creativity.
Yes. And while this is more than creativity, but this is a good way to celebrate the day. So thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon, and have a safe New Year's.
Same to you, Denise. Appreciate it.
All righty. Take care. And so next we're going to go really quickly now to Dr. Shatella Sherman, who is, I think I got a recruit for you. I don't know if you saw, was it Gabrielle earlier in the show, who's doing I'm amazed. I can't wait to talk to her some more about dietetics, and the Black community. I mean, that sounds like a PhD to me, Shatella.
I'm all for it. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Sam, I got you over here too. All right. Waiting to get my autograph from you.
So, Dr. Sherman, this has been a very, very, very just unbelievable year, but yet you've been able to stay in the mix and keep us going with some of these special issues. And so, we want to talk a little bit just about, Black health. I know you've done the 4 supplements this year, health supplements. Probably come across some things that we hadn't even thought about. So let's talk a little bit about racism and the Black community as it relates to health.
I think one of the things that has been sharply overlooked probably in the last 100 years when related to Black folks and our health in this country specifically is that oftentimes we are intimidated by the doctor's office. And so while I was well and aware of things like what they call white coat hypertension, meaning you're fine until you get to a doctor's office and they take your blood pressure and it's sky high, but it's high only because of the nervousness and the anxiety that are attached to being in a doctor's office in the first place. But beyond that, we started realizing that a lot of folks feel intimidated by the process of going to the doctor. And that's what's keeping them from going. It's keeping them from following through with the recommendations that doctors are making. It's keeping them from following through with the regimens or the medications that the doctors are prescribing. And so we really just wanted to look at with some of the supplements, how to get around that. And some of it was something just as basic as having a health buddy, someone that goes with you to the doctor, who you give permission to sit in on the meetings with you and your doctor, the consultations, so that they can ask the questions that you may feel too intimidated or anxious or nervous at that particular point to ask. And so again, we're trying to make sure that with each one of these supplements, we're giving you real-time things that you can do that immediately answer some of these issues. And it's not something long-term, it's something very, very specific. It's something very quick. And it's something that you can do. So that's one of the things that I'm definitely trying to promote to people. If you're feeling it's beginning to be the next year, we're moving into that space. It's time to make your annual appointments. Talk to a friend of yours, have a health buddy that goes with you, an accountability buddy that can kind of help you get into these spaces and get what you need.
I love that. I love that, Dr. Sherman. And I think, because of these feelings that we have and this distrust that we have, also speaks to why the COVID pandemic has been worse on our community. And it's interesting. I know that we're hoping to see you probably involved with ASALH's, the Association for this. I mentioned Dr. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Their Black History theme this in February is Black Health. And they will be looking at Black bodies, which you've looked at quite extensively in some of the research that you've done. And so I like that idea of having a health buddy. You've also written about the environment, and which is a real concern of mine, and what policymakers may not be paying attention to, particularly as it relates to Black communities. Can you talk a little bit about that and where you think we're going to be headed in 2022?
Well, the key word here is advocacy, advocacy, advocacy. And essentially, you know what you need better than your policymakers. So I'm more concerned at this point about the inactivity within the community to band together and say, these are things that we need you to look at as our ANC members, as our council members, as our mayor, as the folks that may be in the community that have different grids, or our new 5G. We're always talking about this stuff as, modernity and innovation, but what health impacts do they have on the neighborhoods and the communities where they are? So those are some of the things that we kind of need to focus on right now. If you're in an apartment building that's old and you're having issues with mold or with mildew, but now all of a sudden you're trapped in your house because of COVID, and so you're experiencing breathing issues that aren't COVID related, but you're really, really concerned about these things, that's when you need your representatives within your apartment complexes. This is when you need to talk to folks and have your listservs so that you can make documentation of these things, but you can't wait until things are exacerbated to a point where you're reacting. You need to be on these things constantly. You need to check and find out how old your building is. If they're having issues, again, with mold or with mildew, how do you deal with a sick building? And so while we've looked at school systems, school buildings, libraries, where there may have been mold or lead in the water, we aren't necessarily checking our apartment complexes. And so under COVID, if we're in our homes, but the home is sick, we're now more aware, I think, that we need to advocate on how we should clean these things up before it gets to a critical point.
Well, one thing that we haven't talked about is this new law that's coming up in the district now. I mean, we are already paying 5 cents for plastic bags, but now if you're ordering food, the law is that restaurants can no longer just automatically provide you with plastic utensils. So when you get home from your carry out and you don't have a fork in there, it's because you weren't paying attention. So just thought I'd bring that up.
Well, I mean, I think what we need to have are scientists. We need to actually work with the scientific community. So when they start telling you, we've created different types of straws, and we've now created different types of silverware that's not really silverware and it's not plastic. We need to figure out what the in-between space is that's actually health conscious, but also environmentally safe. All right. So
Right.
there's an in-between somewhere in there. You don't want you eat with your fingers,
I don't want folks going back, fussing out whomever, because we didn't get our plastic straw or our plastic fork or spoon or knife. And I mean, in some traditions, fingers make the best utensils. But anyway, moving on. I want just briefly, we don't have a lot of time to talk about politics, but this is going to be a very, very interesting year with all the elections, midterm elections coming up, and also, just the lack of passage of the voting rights bill, the John Lewis voting rights bill. People are really upset with the Biden administration about not pushing that forward. But what do you say about, the politics in 2022?
Again, take your anger to the polls. All right. It's not enough to say you voted and the person is in the seat. You have to hold them accountable. All right. So, and you have to know what laws are on the books, and you have to talk amongst yourselves and in your groups to understand what you need to advocate for in the first place. So if your representatives are missing their marks, I would, try and convince a lot of people, if you got the heart for it, enter the ring. I think that DC has a lot of homegrown politicians. I've even tried to get you to run a couple of times for something or another, Denise. And so
I do what I do.
I know. No, I think you're great right where you are. But, I always say, there are a lot of leaders that are right here in front of you. And I don't want to do it. All right. But it's just, but, they're there. And so, put your hat in the ring. And if you don't want to necessarily run for anything, find out who's running, groom the politicians, groom the people that you want to ensure that your policies actually hit where they're supposed to. The rubber and the road have to come together at some point.
I forgot to ask Sam, and I'm putting you on the spot. Do you have a New Year's resolution?
Just keep up with the workout. All right. So I started back in August, and I'm still being a trooper at this point. So, just healthier, happier 2022.
Well, as like you, I got a little trainer, not little trainer. I'm trying to become the little trainee, but I mean, his thing was, the last month in the gyms, they were fairly empty. I guess starting tomorrow, you're going to have to make a reservation to get in there because everybody's New Year's resolution is going to be to work off those pounds, assuming they can get in there safely. So at any rate, I want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Win TV. Thank you so much. I know we've got some great issues coming up in 2022. We'll keep folks on the lookout of what you're going to be doing. And not only for the Informer, but also for Acumen as well. I know you're working on another book. Anyone want to give a sneak preview on what it's about?
I look at eugenics, and I'm actually looking at eugenics in popular culture. So we're going through all different television shows and movies to show you the eugenics and the scientific racism that you're overlooking while you're watching your favorite programs.
Wow. Okay. All right. We'll talk some more about that. Dr. Sherman, thank you so much for being with us. Happy New Year. Be safe. Happy Kwanzaa. And we'll see you on the other side.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me.
All righty. So that's it for this edition of Win TV's weekly news broadcast, the last edition for 2021. But please tune in next week when we're going to talk to Shedrick Pelt about his coverage of the January 6th insurrection. And we want you to enjoy ringing in the new year at home with your open bar, Chevry? Open bar and your all-you-can-eat in the fridge buffet. Yes. Dress how you like, even though I thought I would put on something a little sparkly for you all today. It's probably going to come off shortly. But anyway, dress how you like, whether solo or with a house full. If you're with a house full, make sure that people are masked and vaccinated and whatever, washing hands and socially distant, because we don't want you to go into the new year not feeling as well as how you came out. And we welcome the new year. We welcome you with the Washington Informer. And as we keep saying, we want to do more for you in 2022. So with that, I'm going to sign off. But we want you to watch our photo essays that Chevry Lassiter put together. And I want to take just a moment to thank Chevry, our producer. Some of you all who are guests on the show have met her. Those of you all who watch the show have heard me talk about her. But we're with her, we become a dynamic duo. And I want to thank her sincerely for all she's done to make sure that Win TV comes to you every Friday, even when she's on vacation. Can you believe it? She does it when she's on vacation. So that's how dedicated she is. And I appreciate you and wish you a happy new year, Chevry. So you all be safe, and we will see you next Friday. Until then, this is Denise Rollard Barnes signing off.